Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. You're listening to the longest running superhero role playing game on Earth. I'm your host, the Game Master, and today we're talking about the Fantastic Four. Normally, we have four players, but as of me recording this, it's summer vacation. So my kids are not in college right now, and my son, who was a teacher, is not teaching anymore, and the weather is finally nice. So when a Saturday rolls around, instead of wanting to stay inside and roll dice, my family would often rather go swimming or fishing or something like that. Same with some of our other players and their family members. And when one person is available, the next person is not. So it's harder to get everybody together at the same time during the summer months, in my humble opinion. So on this particular day, Brad had to work, he was not available. And since he plays the Human Torch, I decided to run a villain who would be immune to the Human Torch's attacks, and that was Firelord. For those who are unaware, Firelord is a herald of Galactus, and the heralds of Galactus often have an elemental theme to them. So, Firelord, as his name would imply, was all about the element of fire. So he can absorb fire and he's immune to heat. So I figured I would run him on a day when Brad was not able to come over and play. Because if he did come over when we ran Firelord, that wouldn't be a lot of fun for him. So I figured this was the best day to run this specific villain. Anyway, before we get into all that, smash that like button. Make sure that you're still subscribed because YouTube loves to unsubscribe you and not tell you. And leave us a comment. That helps us out with the YouTube algorithm, but also we love to hear from you guys. We've got a fantastic community here, and that's all thanks to you. So thank you so much for being here. So, all that said, let's dive in. Prologue to today's story begins on Earth K in the year 2025 when Firelord shows up in New York City. Johnny Storm sees this, so he does some skywriting. He makes a circle of fire in the sky and then he draws a number 4 inside of it. And that's sort of like the Fantastic Four's answer to the bat signal. So Firelord knocks out the Human Torch, but it's too late because the other members of the Fantastic Four have already been alerted that there's an emergency. So in the old Baxter building, Susan Storm sees the signal in the sky, changes into her Invisible Woman costume, then jumps out of the building and erects an invisible sphere around herself, which she moves towards the area where Firelord is at. And in Four Freedoms Plaza, Reed, John, Ben, and Herbie the robot see this as well, and they all pile into the Fantasticar and they head there as well. Which brings us to the main plot of this adventure. Sue puts Firelord in an invisible force bubble, trying to snuff out his flames, just like Malice did to her brother Johnny in the previous adventure. But Firelord's fire can burn in the vacuum of space. So we said that didn't work. And that apparently cosmic fire needs no oxygen. Herbie the robot is my GMPC for this adventure. I've always loved robots, and as a kid, I loved Herbie on the old Fantastic Four cartoon. I feel like people always crap on him. So my Herbie is more inspired by characters like Lieutenant Commander Data from Star Trek The Next Generation or the Robin Williams character from Bicentennial Man. And something that I often do is I take a character that most people don't like and I try to work him up to be the most beloved character in that campaign. So right now, that's what I'm trying to accomplish with Herbie. And as such, we said that for as long as he's been around, he's sort of evolved to the point that he is his own person, person being the operative term there, and that he's upgraded his body several times. So the Herbie of Earth K has Omni Arm and a modest amount of Omni power that he can use for various effects. So he sprays Firelord with some sort of fire retardant foam that Reed Richards invented. But Herbie rolls the dice and gets a low result. So that really doesn't do much. On Ben Grimm's turn, he, of course, spends an automatic action saying it's clobbering time. Then he punches Firelord and gets a decent roll. So Firelord takes some damage. Then we get to Reed, and my son is playing Reed. And my son's inspiration is actually from an old Jack Kirby interview where somebody asked Jack Kirby who is the most powerful character in comic books. And Kirby thought it over and then said that he thought it was Plastic Man, which surprised the interviewer. So they asked Kirby why he thought that. And Jack Kirby said that Plastic Man can just turn into anything, no matter what the situation called for. Kirby's Plastic Man could just be that thing, right? So, since Kirby helped create the Marvel Universe and specifically the Fantastic Four, we wondered how much of that thought process had gone into Reed Richards. So, we've been letting my son spend hero points to raise some of Reed's abilities here and there and slightly modify how his powers work. We said that in our game world, Reed started adventuring in the 1960s. So he's had all the time in the world to conduct various experiments that would alter his own attributes and powers, etc. And believe it or not, this is actually foreshadowing for something that's coming down the pipe later on. Anyway, so the Reed Richards of Earth K has the intelligence to imagine all sorts of weird gadgets, and then he can shapeshift his arms and hands into those devices. So to some extent, Reed transforms his arms into a sonic cannon, and then he uses that to attack Firelord, and he does damage. Firelord tries to hit back, but according to the old Marvel Superheroes role playing game by TSR, which we then convert into DC Heroes stats, Firelord's attacks are all 12 APs or less as long as he's inside of Earth's atmosphere. And that old phase rip game also said that Sue Storm could make multiple force constructs all at the same time. So our version of Sue creates invisible armor for the heroes to wear, which I liked since at the core of her character, her big thing is she wants to protect her family. And as a result, her armor has enough of the skin armor power that Firelord's flames don't get through. So the heroes are safe while the villain keeps losing hit points throughout the battle. And while it is possible for him to roll high enough to do damage and get through that invisible armor, it does not happen in this game session. So the good guys win. Once the villain is down, Reed uses one of those time discs that we saw in the last game session to freeze Firelord in time. And while he's doing that, Kirby checks on Johnny Storm, who is the other character here who's knocked out. H.E.R.B.I has been seen with medical skills in the comics. For that matter, honestly, H.E.R.B.I basically has every skill in the comics. So we gave him a high medical skill, and he takes care of Johnny, and he helps get him back to Four Freedoms Plaza. And that brings us to the epilogue of this game session, where we see Reed Richards back in his lab in Four Freedoms Plaza. And recently, the original Galactus, aka Galen of Ta, died, only to then later return from the dead. And when we last saw him, what was hinted at was that he no longer had his boundless hunger. And he fought Franklin Richards, who in our game world was the second Galactus and was heroic. So Franklin and Galen fought, and it was this big kaiju scale Galactus fight, and the good one won. And for a hot minute, everybody thought that was it for the original Galactus. And yet, now we are seeing one of the Heralds of Galactus show up. So Ben Grimm addresses Reed as Stretcho and asks him, what does it all mean? And Reed says that if the first Galactus isn't hungry, then even Reed can't fathom why he would send heralds to Earth. But Reed says that one thing is sure: heralds are like cosmic ants. And if you see one, that's just the scout. More ants are sure to show up sooner or later. And that was it for this game session. We enjoyed this one. We hope that you did too. If so, we would love it if you chose to support our humble little channel by smashing that like button. Make sure you're subscribed and leave us a comment. And from all of us here at the longest running superhero role playing game on Earth, we hope you have a good one, and we'll see you in the next adventure. Bye.